All right, so on number one, we need to, well, what do we need to do? Have you worked number one yet? What are we doing? Graph the linear function. What's that? So when you have y equals negative 3/5 x minus 1, what is the negative 1? It's the y-intercept. So I go to the y-axis and go to negative 1 and I plot a point, yeah? What is the negative 3/5? Okay, so the slope is a negative 3/5. So I'm going to go, if it's a negative 3/5, that means either go down 3. Do we go left 5 or right 5? That's a positive 5, so we go to the right 5. Or, instead of going down 3, if we go up 3, that means we need to go which way? Which way if we go up? Left. So one of them has to be negative. If you've got a negative slope, one of the directions needs to be negative, the other needs to be positive. It's right here. Alright, so I'm going to go down 3 and to the right 5. 1, 2, well, over here at 5. And then up 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's my line, yeah? Okay, guys, do you remember what domain is? Okay, domain is left and right. So how far to the left does this function go? Does it go all the way to negative infinity? Yeah, it just keeps on going. And does it go all the way to positive infinity? Yep, so the domain is all real numbers or negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, if domain is left and right, then range is what? Up and down. So domain is left and right. Range is up and down. So does it go all the way up and all the way down? So negative infinity to positive infinity or all real numbers. Okay, what is the y-intercept? It's just negative 1, right? So we graphed, that's the first thing we graphed about this function, so negative 1. Now, okay, I am okay if you write negative 1. I am okay if you write 0, negative 1. I'm not okay if you write negative 1, 0. You hear me? If you write negative 1, 0, that's an x value and a y value. You're finding the y-intercept, so that's wrong, okay? So either write 0, negative 1 or negative 1, but don't write negative 1, 0. Okay, x-intercept. I need to know where it crosses the x-axis. And it looks like it's somewhere between negative 1 and negative 2, yeah? Right there? Okay. A y-intercept is when x equals 0. And an x-intercept is when what? When y equals 0. So I'm going to take this function, negative 3/5 x minus 1, and I'm going to let y equal what? 0. And I'm going to solve. Okay? So I need to get x by itself. What do you want to do? What do you get rid of first, the negative 3, the 5, or the negative 1? The negative 1, right now we're subtracting 1 from negative 3/5 x, so I'm going to add 1. So 1 equals a negative 3 divided by 5x. How do we undo division? Okay, so if I'm dividing by 5, which is what we're doing right there, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. 5 simplify out, and I'm left with 5 times 1, which is what? Equals what? Negative 3x. Now what do I need to do? Divide both sides by a negative 3. Don't forget the negative. A lot of people forget the negative. So, a negative 5/3. If you were to type that in, negative 5 divided by 3, you would get, well, it's negative 1 and 2/3, right? Negative 1.6 repeating. Does that look like it's okay for that point right there? Negative 1.6 repeating? Yeah. Okay. It asks for slope. What was our slope? Negative 3 over 5. And then end behavior. Do y'all remember end behavior? So what does this mean when it says x is going to negative infinity? What does that mean? When x is going to negative infinity, we're talking about when x, this is the x-axis, right? When you're going to negative infinity, when you go this direction, where's the function going? To positive infinity. So as you go to the left, the function is going up. So what does it mean when it says x is approaching positive infinity? When you're going to the right, when x goes to positive infinity, the function is going to negative infinity. It's going down. Okay? All right. I'm going to jump around today, and then we'll finish it up tomorrow, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go to number 3. Do we remember how to factor? I need the factors of what? I need the factors of what? The last number. I need the factors of negative 15 that add up to negative 2, the middle number, right? Do you remember how to find factors in your calculator if you're not good at remembering them? If you go to y equals and you type in negative 15 divided by x, and then you go to the table, then you just look for the whole numbers that divide into it, and then you got your factors list, right? So you get 1 and 15, 3 and 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, but 5 minus 3 is 2. Do I need 2 or negative 2? Negative 2. So is it negative 3 or is it negative 5? Negative 5. So I know it's x plus 3 and x minus 5. Now, I just wrote x's because I'm just out of habit, and these are m's. Is that okay? It is. It'd be nice if I remembered to write that, but I'm not going to count off if you accidentally do the wrong variable. Okay? So that is the answer for that one. Now let's go to number 5. What's different about number 5 compared to number 3? Right here, you've got a number in front of x squared, right? And can I divide a 3 out of 7 and 20? No, which means I have to do what method? Do you remember? You have to multiply. We call that, do you remember what the name is? It's not important that you remember the name. It's important that you remember how, but it is called bottoms up. Do y'all remember that? Okay. So I'm going to multiply 3 times negative 20. What is 3 times negative 20? Negative 60. So I'm looking for the factors of negative 60 that add up to what? It's still the middle number. Negative 7, right? So if I need to, I look at my factors list. I've got 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, and 6 and 10, and that's it. So which ones have a sum or difference of 7? I'm thinking 5 and 12. So I need a negative 7. So is it, and I need a negative 60 when I multiply. If you multiply to get a negative, one of them needs to be negative. Is it negative 5 plus 12 or 5 minus 12? 5 minus 12, and check it. Check it in your calculator. Negative 5 plus 12, 5 minus 12. And if you get negative 7, then that's the combination you need. So we write x what? Plus 5 and x minus 12. Am I done? The fact of the matter is that we multiplied by what number? 3. So I have to remember to go back and divide it back out. Does 5 divide by 3? So then we do bottoms up. So I write this as 3x plus 5. Does 12 divide by 3? How many times? 4 being that certain number, no? So there you go. And that is my answer. Why should you not miss this? Why should you, like, if you had accidentally put a negative here and a positive there, what can you do at this point to check your answer? Guys, what could you do to check your answer right there? What if I just distribute it out right quick to see if I get the right answer? What's 3x times x? 3x squared. What's 3x times negative 4? Negative 12x. What's 5 times x? 5x. What's 5 times negative 4? Negative 20. That is negative 7x, so we're right. Okay, you have a chance to check yourself on any of these factoring problems. So I don't expect you to get them wrong just because you put the negative on the wrong number. Okay? You should always try. All right, let's go to number 7. On number 7, I've got simplify the following expression. So we've got a couple different expressions. What do I need to do, or when you see this problem, what do you think you should do first? Yeah, I'm thinking distribute, yeah? So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite 3x to the 4th, because I don't need to do anything with that. But now I'm going to distribute a negative 4x squared to this term and to that term. What is a negative 4x squared times a positive 2x squared? Well, what's a negative 4 times a positive 2? Negative 8. What's x squared times x squared? X to the 4th. Remember when we multiply x to the 2nd times x to the 3rd, is that x to the 6th or x to the 5th? Remember, that's just saying 2 x's times another 3. How many x's is that? It's just 5. So we add the powers when you multiply, okay? All right, what's a negative 4x squared times a negative 11x? You know, the biggest thing that people miss on these is just negatives. So just always make sure you're conscientious of what you're multiplying. A negative 4 times a negative 11 is a positive 44. And then x squared times x is x what? X to the 3rd. Okay, do I need to do anything else? Now I need to distribute what? 3x. 3x times 5x squared. What is 3 times 5? 15. So plus 15. What's x times x squared? X to the 3rd. Now I'm going to multiply what? 3x times a negative 2x to the 4th. What's a 3 times a negative 2? A negative 6. What's x times x to the 4th? X to the 5th. Okay, at this point, it's not good enough to just say that's my answer. You need to combine like terms and put them in order. What's the highest power of x you see? Good, that's first. Negative 6x to the 5th. Well, okay, so the next highest power is 4, and you have a 3 and a negative 8, right? What's 3 minus 8? So negative 5x to the 4th. Okay, and then the third highest power, and the rest, is this right here, right? 44 plus 15 is 59? Okay, so plus 59x cubed. And we're done. Okay? Guys, is that kind of an easy problem? Because it should be. It should be one that you're just able to work out, simplify, and then get some points on that. All right. Solve each equation. Let's work number 9. On number 9, I see I have a negative 7m minus 6 times m minus 4. Do you want to do anything with that? Hello? Okay, thanks. So I'm going to distribute a negative 6. Thank you, Ryan. So I have negative 7m. What's a negative 6 times m? Negative 6m. What's a negative 6 times a negative 4? Positive 24 equals negative 32 minus 6m. Now we need to what? Combine like terms? Is there anything I can combine on the left side? Negative 7 and negative 6. is what? What's negative 7 minus 6? Negative 13? Hey, guys, right quick. If you look at this problem, don't you have a negative 6m on both sides? If you notice that, if you have the exact same thing, if I were to add 6m to both sides, wouldn't they both cancel out? So if you, well, they would. So if you have the exact same thing on both sides, same sign and everything, then you can just cancel them out. But if you don't notice that, then you just got to go ahead and work it. So what do we do at that point? I'm okay with that. I'm not going to work it that way, though, because I like my variable to be positive. I'm going to add 13m to this side. Does it matter which way I do it? No, as long as you keep your negatives and positives correct. This is a negative 32. What's 6 or negative 6 plus 13? 7? What do we do at this point? Add 32. So I'm going to add 32. What's 32 plus 24? So 56 equals 7m. And you're right, it does, because at that point we divide by 7, because we're trying to get the variable by itself, m, and 8 equals m. Well, no, definitely, if you can combine steps, then you can do that. I'm going to show every step, but if you need to, you can definitely combine. Okay. Determine if the sequence is arithmetic. If it is, find the term named in the problem and the explicit formula. Will I give you the formulas? I probably will, but I'll probably write them all in one space, so you have to determine when to use each one, and I won't say this is explicit, this is recursive, so you need to remember that. Do we need to write those down right quick? You have plenty of space in the bottom on this side of the paper, so let's go ahead and write those down. Let's write down explicit and recursive. So the explicit formula, does anybody remember it? X sub n equals x sub 1 plus the common difference times n minus 1. What are the numbers you substitute in? What's the only thing that when you write in an explicit formula you plug in numbers for? Okay, this is the first term, and that is the common difference. Those are the only numbers you substitute in, okay? You don't make n anything else. You don't put x to the 43rd. You put x to the n for the formula, okay? Now what about recursive? X sub n equals sub n minus 1 plus the common difference. That is the only thing that you substitute in for, the common difference. Now you need to actually, let's add one piece to that, and I'll write that on there. You also write down what x sub 1 equals. So the recursive formula, we write down that, and then we write down x sub 1 equals. Okay? So when I'm working this problem right here, it says determine if the sequence is arithmetic. If it is, find the term named in the problem and the explicit formula. So how do I determine if it's arithmetic? Right, if it has the same difference. So if you need to, you can take the second term, negative 32, and subtract the first term. And negative 32 minus a negative 12 is negative 20. So it looks like I subtract 20. If you take the third term, negative 52, and you subtract the second term, negative 32, then you get plus 32, and that ends up with a negative 20. And basically just think of it as adding 20 in the negative direction. 12 plus 20 is 32, plus 20 is 52, plus 20 is 72. So is it arithmetic? Yeah. And the common difference is negative 20. What is the first term? Negative 12. So, guys, when it says write the formula, first you need to write x sub n equals. In the formula, what comes first? The first term, negative 12. And then comes the common difference, minus 20. Good, and then you finish out the formula in times n minus 1. So it is negative 12 minus 20 times n minus 1. So when it says find the 28th term, so all right, a sub 28 equals, and so if n equals 28, then n equals 28. So if you want to, you can type in your calculator, negative 12 minus 20 times, and if you want to, you can just say 27 right there, or times 28 minus 1. And what did you say it was, Noah? 500 what? 52? Well, I'm very proud of you. Oh, okay. So your answer is actually two-part. I need this for your answer, and I need this for your answer. Okay? I would be grading two different things. All right, on 13, it says, given the recursive formula for an arithmetic sequence, find the explicit formula and the first 5 terms. So if I use my formulas correctly, down here, I know that x sub n equals x sub n minus 1 plus d. That number right there is the what? The difference between each term, right? Let's go ahead and write out, well, actually I already know. X sub n equals what goes in the first spot? Good, the first term, negative 2. What goes in front of the parentheses? The common difference, negative 8. Do I care that there's a plus minus right there? I do not. The first 5 terms. I need the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, and the fifth term. You don't need to write that out. I'm just writing it. The first term is what? And what are we doing every time? So we're subtracting 8. What's negative 2 minus 8? So basically just adding 8 in the negative direction. True? Okay, give me a second. All right. So negative 10. If I minus 8 again, that's like adding 8 to 10. That's 18, but it's negative. If I minus 8 again, that is negative 26. And if I add a negative 8 again, or subtract 8, I get to negative 34. And there's my first 5 terms. Okay. Number 15, it says solve the system by graphing. Okay, if I'm going to graph a linear function, I need to solve for y. Yes? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write in this space right here, x minus 3y equals negative 9, so I can solve for y, and 5x minus 3y equals 3, so I can solve for y. So I'm going to solve both of those for y to graph. So I'll give you a second to write this down if you haven't already, but let's go ahead and do this. How do I solve for y? What's the first thing you want to do? Okay, x is already positive, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So I'm left with what? A lot of people drop that negative, and it'll kind of ruin the problem. You've got to make sure that's still a negative 3. So negative 3y equals, can I combine negative 9 and negative x? I cannot. One has an x and one doesn't, so I'm going to write negative x minus 9 or negative 9 minus x. I don't really care. So then, I need to get y by itself still. I'm multiplying by a negative 3. What's the opposite of multiplying by a negative 3? Dividing by a negative 3. If you forget to take that negative with it, it'll change the whole problem. So y equals, what's a negative divided by a negative? So that is actually a positive 1/3 x, or 1x over 3. Be careful that you don't write this, because I have a lot of people doing that. And I know you know that it's 1/3 x, but to me it looks like 1 over 3x, which is a completely different animal. We haven't even talked about that yet. Okay. What's a negative 9 divided by a negative 3? A positive 3. Okay, so we solve for the next one. How do I get rid of this 5x? It's a positive 5x, so we subtract 5x from both sides. One of the dangers is that a lot of people just write minus 5 right here, but then if you write minus 5, you're liable to add the 3 and the negative 5 and get negative 2, but you've forgotten the x, and so it can make for an ugly situation. So you've got negative 5x plus 3, or 3 minus 5x. I need to divide by a negative 3 again. So I've got y equals, what's a negative 5 divided by a negative 3? Just a positive 5/3. It doesn't simplify. But what's a positive 3 divided by a negative 3? Negative 1. Okay, what do I need to do at this point? Graph the two? Because the point is to solve this system. And solving a system means finding where the two functions intersect, yes? So let's go ahead and do this. I've got a positive 3 and a slope of 1/3. What does that mean? Good. Up 1 over 3. My y-intercept is 3, and my slope is up 1 over 3. They're both positive. Up 1 to the right 3, or down 1 to the left 3. Can someone let John back in? Okay, and now I need to graph 5/3 x minus 1. So what's my y-intercept? Negative 1. What's my slope? Up 5 over 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. That's enough to go ahead and find my answer. I'm going to go ahead and sketch the two lines because you need them. But the answer is actually the intersection. So don't forget to say that last step. My answer is what? 3, 4. Remember, we put x and then y. That is your final answer, that coordinate point. Do you know where I'm going to give you points on this? One of the points you get is for solving that correctly. One of the points you get is for solving that correctly. You get another point for graphing this line, and another point for graphing that line, and then the last point for identifying the intersection. That's 5 points. Now, what if you accidentally graph one of these wrong, or you solve for it wrong? Well, then I'll go with it. You get less points on that, but I'll go with it and see if you graph that right, then I'll give you that point for graphing that function right, okay? Even if it's the wrong function. Okay, solve by substitution. What do we do? Do you remember? Solving by substitution is where you want to get a variable by itself so that you can substitute into another. And I see that this has a 3, this has a 15, that has a 30. This has a 1, a 5, and a 10. Now, you could divide out, if you notice that things all divide by a number, but we're just going to go ahead and solve for this x. How do I get x by itself? Subtract what? Oh, I want to get x by itself. How about I just get rid of the 5y? I'm going to get x by itself. X equals 10 minus 5y, or negative 5y plus 10. Doesn't really matter. But then what do I do with that? Yeah. No, remember that it's called substitution, right? So this is where we take this expression right here. What does it equal? X. And I plug it into the other equation where there is an x. Remember, this is x, so I replace the other x with that. So I've got 3 times x, which is now 10 minus 5y, right? And then I continue on the function. 3x plus 15y equals 30, plus 15y equals 30. So I substitute in 10 minus 5y for x. And now I start simplifying. Well, I need to go ahead and distribute. I haven't done that yet. What's 3 times 10? 30. And 3 times negative 5y? Negative 15y, and then plus 15y equals 30. What's a negative 15y plus 15y? 0. So these two cancel each other out, right? I'm left with 30 equals 30. Is that a true statement? It is a true statement, which means what? We have infinite solutions. What if it had been a false statement? No solution. And then if it had been y equals 7, then we would have solved, if we know y, then go back and solve for x, okay? All right. Now let's do elimination, number 19. Do you remember what you need to think about with elimination? Elimination is where you want to eliminate a variable. And so I see right here that I've got a positive 4 and a negative 1x. If I were to add 4 and negative 1, would they cancel each other out? No. What about 16 and negative 8? If I add them, would they cancel each other out? So what do I need to multiply the bottom row by to make it cancel out with either x or y? Okay, if you multiply it by 2, then you get a negative 16 and a positive 16, right? Did anybody else decide to multiply by 4? If you multiply by 4, you would cancel those two out, right? I'm okay with multiplying by 2, though. So I've got 4x plus 16y equals a negative 20. And now I've got, what's 2 times negative x? Negative 2x. What's 2 times negative 8? Y. Negative 16y, that's kind of the point, right? What's 2 times 1? 2. Now we add the two equations. And the whole reason we did that is because what happens now? And the y's cancel each other out, right? What is 4x minus 2x? I'm going to go with 2. So I've got 4x minus 2x is 2x. What's a negative 20 plus 2? Negative 18. I need to solve for x. I've got 2x equals a negative 18. What do? Divide by 2. X equals what? I'm going to go with negative 9. Okay. Am I done? Remember, the solution to a system is a coordinate point. I've got an x and a y. I've already got the x. I need the y. So, what do? Plug in negative 9 for an x and one. Does it matter which equation? No. The second equation is smaller numbers, but I don't want you to get confused. When you plug in a negative 9 right here, a negative 9 is a positive 9, right? But I don't know if you would choose to do that. I'm going to go ahead and plug in negative 9 into the top equation. 4 times negative 9 plus 16y equals a negative 20. Okay, so negative 36. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm plugging in negative 9 to the top equation. Okay, so we are going to solve for y, yeah? Once you've simplified 4 times negative 9 to negative 36, you want to solve for y. We're going to add the 36. And I get 16y equals negative 20 plus 36 is positive 16. Yeah, but we got to get everyone else there too, Noah. All right, so we divide by 16, and 16 divided by itself is 1. Negative 9, positive 1. Okay. All right. So sketch a graph of each system of inequalities. I've got y is greater than 2/3 x plus 3. What do I do? Okay. Is this a quadratic or a linear function? This first one? It doesn't have an x squared, it's just an x. So don't try and make that a quadratic because it's not, okay? It's a y-intercept of positive 3 and a slope of what? 2/3. So up 2 over 3. You have to go across the whole graph on these. Down 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. Okay, do you remember whether or not we do a solid or a dotted line? If you have a greater than or less than with no line, then that is a dotted line. But if you have a greater than or equal to and a less than or equal to, it's a solid line. Okay? Alright, so this is going to be a dotted line. Now, it does say y is greater than, right? If it says greater than, then the arrows point up. So I'm going to go along the line and draw arrows pointing up. Okay. Now, the next function is x squared minus 4. X squared is just a parabola, and then minus 4 shifts it where? Down 4? I don't go left or right any. I take a parabola, x squared, and then I shift it down 4. Do you remember the pattern on parabolas? Well, think about it. What's 0 squared? 0. What's 1 squared? 1. What's 2 squared? 4. What's 3 squared? 9. And then it just keeps on going in perfect squares, right? So if you go over 1, then you only go up 1 on either side. Now, could I plug in 1 right there for x and simplify that? 1 squared is 1 minus 4 is negative 3. When x equals 1, if I plug in 1, I get 1 squared minus 4. That is a negative 3, right? So 1 is negative 3, but it's a symmetrical function, so I'm also going to do it over there. Now if I plug in 2, I've got 2 squared minus 4. What's that? What's 2 squared? 4 minus 4 is 0. Does that follow the pattern? I go over 1 and up 1. I go over 2 from the vertex, and I go up how many? 4. So if I go over 2, 1, 2, I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could keep going by plugging numbers in, or I could just know the pattern. I'm going to go to the right 3 and go up how much? 9. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I mirror image over there. Now, is the next function going to show up there? If I plug in 4, if I go over 4, I would go up 16, and I'm not going to be able to see that. So I just need to go ahead and sketch. It does say, it doesn't have a line underneath it, so it's a dotted line. Is it less than or is it greater than? It does say less than, which means I point my arrows where? So if you need to know where, because you can't draw an arrow pointing down inside, you start from the outside of the parabola and point down. Okay, where are the arrows pointing to each other? Okay, I have to be above that line. So if you need to, then you can just cover up that line. I have to be above the line. But I have to be outside the parabola. I have to be less than the parabola. So we are talking about this region and this region. Okay? So when we talk about shading, I need to shade those. we're not going to have time to finish this. Let's go ahead and graph like one or two of these. Can you graph y is less than or equal to 9? What does y is less than or equal to 9 look like? I go to the y-axis and I go to 9, and I draw a horizontal line. Now it says less than or equal to, so where I draw the arrows? Pointing down. Okay, so I've got that one. Can we draw this x is less than or equal to 8? X is less than or equal to 8 means I go to the x-axis at 8, vertical or horizontal line? I have to go through the x-axis at 8, so I draw a vertical line. It says less than or equal to, so I draw arrows pointing to the left, because it says less than. Okay, so your graph should look like that so far. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing. I want to be able to solve for y on this right here. X plus 2y is less than or equal to 16. How do I solve for y? What do I do first? I'm going to subtract the x, and I'm left with 2y is less than or equal to what? Negative x plus 16. Now what do I do? Divide by 2 every term, right? So I've got y is less than or equal to a negative 1/2 x plus 8. Can we sketch that right quick? I'm going to go up to 8 and plot a point. And then my slope is what? Negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. And up 1 to the left 2. And I connect them. Did it say greater than or less than? So I'm going to point arrows down along that line. Okay? All right. We will finish this problem tomorrow, okay?